Book 101 review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She is the author of the book BFF or an RF. No other than Miss Jessica Speer. Welcome to Book 101, Miss Jessica. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Daniel. It's great to be here with you on your podcast. I write books for preteens and early teens, and that tricky title that you shared, BFF, which stands for Best Friends Forever, or NRF, which stands for Not Really Friends, is a girl's guide to happy friendships. And I've got a background in social sciences, so this book actually grew out of a friendship program that I ran for girls to help them develop, healthier friendship skills that, were important in that phase of their life, but they're basically the same skills that we carry throughout life, with our friendships and also our close partnerships too.
Miss Jessica Spear, thank you so much for sharing book sharing your books to the world. So what is the main message? Oh, BFF or an RF?
The main message, it's actually a really interactive book. So since it's for preteen girls, it's all about how to be a good friend and to look for good friends. So all the skills that go in to healthy friendships. And since the audience is preteen girls, it's really interactive. There's quizzes to help their self-awareness. There's fun activities, and there's a lot of real stories that I heard when I was working with girls in my friendship program. I heard a lot of the same stories over and over about their friendships. So I included a lot of those stories so that girls can kind of relate to that and learn from that as well.
How does the book define the difference between a best friend forever and not really friend?
Oh, good question. Okay, so let me describe a resource in the book that anybody can find on the internet if they just search Jessica Spear Friendship Pyramid. Okay, so in the friendship pyramid, it shares all sorts of truths about our friendship. So at the very, very tip of the pyramid, I have close friends, but I share there that these friendships are hard to find. Most of us have less than five people. Some of these might even be relatives that we consider close friends. So they're harder to find. We feel like we can share our deeper thoughts and feelings with. We can be truly authentically ourselves with this person. Takes a lot of time and trust to build these friendships. The middle of the friendship pyramid is friends. And of course, I'm really loose with this term because these days we have in person friends and we have online friends. And sometimes they're our neighbors, our teammates, our classmates. So I'm really light with those terms because it's just important for kids to have friends. It's going to be harder for them to find close friends, but it's important for them to have lots of friends in the friend bucket. And then under that are acquaintances, the biggest part of the pyramid, or the people we don't even know yet that could be possible new friends. But then off to the side, I've got what I describe as NRF, and I made that up. So that's not really friends. And if we think about it, sometimes we're in a relationship with somebody that we call it a friend, but the behavior happening in there actually isn't really a friendship sort of behavior. So they might gossip and spread rumors. They might have really broken your trust. They might be mean to you sometimes. I describe these behaviors that we can help us identify. Hey, this actually is not really a friendship. So kids can think about what they want to do in that situation. Do they want to put down some boundaries? Do they want to work on communicating to improve this relationship? So there's choices there, but helping them see that sometimes we find ourselves in a situation that is a not really friend situation, but we've got choices there too.
So, Miss Jessica, what are the some signs that friendship might be toxic according to the book?
Oh, so some things we can notice is how do we feel after spending time with that friend? So after we spend time with that friend, do we feel really bad about ourselves? Do we feel like, that yeah, we just don't feel good. after usually spending time with those friends. We also might notice that we feel like we can't really be ourselves. So maybe we don't feel safe enough emotionally with them to actually be ourselves, our authentic true selves. So those are just two things that can help us start to identify the friendships that might not be healthy.
So, what advice does the book give about handling friendship drama?
Ah, yes, and friendship drama is a common theme sometimes in these is it pre in the preteen, the teen years. So one thing we talk about is that, and we know this as adults, is all we can really control is ourselves and be the kind of friend we want to have. We're not going to be friends with everybody. We're not going to like everybody the same, and that's perfectly normal and okay. But we can put our energy into growing the friendships that we want to. So just recognizing which of our friendships do feel really safe and accepting, putting our time and energy into those, but also knowing that friendships have lots of phases and change over time. Sometimes, we have this term BFF, best friends forever. That's actually pretty untrue. Most of the time, friendships last a course of, maybe a few months, maybe a few years. Occasionally, we have those special friendships that last a really long time, but the majority of our friendships are like seasons. They come and they go and they change. And so once kids know that too, they're less likely to feel like, hey, something's wrong with me. Just knowing that the nature of our friendships is they do have different phases and change over time.
Certainly. So, Miss Jessica, how does BFF or NRF suggest dealing with jealousy in friendships?
Oh, and jealousy is a tough one, especially, for
Yes.
younger girls, they might be really comparing themselves to their friends or how many friends they have or how many likes they have on social posts or what they look like. It's a tough one for young girls. So constantly reminding themselves that they are okay as they are. I think it's helpful to recognize when they are feeling those jealous feelings. Just sometimes if we name those emotions, we can start to tame those emotions. So recognizing, "Ugh, I'm feeling really jealous right now," and doing what you can to take care of that emotion, which might be reminding yourself that you're okay as you are, or just talking about it with a parent or someone close to you, just kind of getting it off your chest. So yeah, those are just a couple of ways that kids can deal with jealousy.
Certainly. Why is self awareness important in friendships, according to your book?
Because the more we know about ourselves and what we're great at in friendship, and maybe some areas we still have room to grow, the better off. Everybody, especially when we're talking kids and teens, are learning relationship skills at a different pace. We all have some things we're really good at, and then we all have some things that we still have some room to grow. In fact, the second chapter of the book is how are my friendship skills? And it's a really long quiz that goes into all sorts of components of healthy friendship, such as listening and reciprocity and flexibility and good communication. So, yeah, anybody who takes that quiz, no matter how old they are, will quickly realize, oh, yeah, this is where I'm really strong and this is where I'm really struggling. And sometimes those areas where we struggle is what is causing us some challenges in our relationship. So just being aware of that self-awareness of knowing where we have room to go can help us, to keep growing in our friendships too.
Yes, people, be aware. Very well said, Miss Jessica. Beautifully articulated. So, how does the book encourage girls to build strong and healthy friendship?
Ah, this is a skill that takes time. So if we think about it, when kids are little babies, when the youngest developmental stage, they do something called parallel play. They don't even have the skills yet to play with each other. And then they become, preschoolers and they start to learn to play together. And as they grow, they start to learn a lot of these other skills over time. Learn how to be trustworthy, learn how to really listen deeply, learn how to share in healthy ways, share and resolve conflicts in ways that connect rather than divide. So what I like to remind kids and parents too is that this is a journey. So this takes some time, and we have to realize we're all growing and changing. We're all doing the best we can. So I like to encourage kids and adults to avoid labels. Sometimes we'll throw a label on a kid, maybe a 9-year old, and say, "Hey, that's the mean girl, or that's the bully." I love to avoid labels because they're just kids, and they're growing and they're learning and they're changing. So let's give everybody the room to do that, and us too as adults. So avoiding labels, realizing we all have skills, we're all doing the best we can with the skills we've got.
Enjoy the journey, people, because we can no longer go back to that situation. So, what strategies does the book offer for making new friends?
Ah, new friends. And believe it or not, this is a skill that we learn too. We think, oh, of
Yes.
course, that's super easy. But it's actually a skill that I would role play with kids. Like, so what do? You walked into a party and you don't know anybody. What do you do? So just teaching them, hey, you can find maybe somebody else that isn't standing with somebody. Walk up to them, say hello, introduce yourself, ask them a question. So we might assume that kids and teens know how to do this. They might not. So let's actually talk about it. If they're young enough, they might be willing to practice it with you so they can learn how to do this. Some kids are more extroverted, and it's no problem for them to actually walk into that party and meet people right off the bat. But some are much more introverted and quiet, so they're going to need some help to build those skills.
So, Miss Jessica, how does a BFF or an RF address the topic of peer pressure?
Oh, peer pressure is a tough one. It's a tough one,
Yes.
especially in the United States, where we get into middle school and everybody is really concerned about fitting in. So if we think about it, if we peel away the layers, what peer pressure is all about is belonging. Everybody wants to feel belonging, part of the group. And so the reason we fall for peer pressure is because we are afraid we might be, left out of that group. So sometimes, we can be peer pressured in positive ways. Maybe someone is pressuring us to actually study for our test, or maybe someone's pushing us to do something that we are kind of wanting to do, but we might be a little nervous, and so they're encouraging our confidence. But other times, peer pressure is pressuring us to try things we don't want to do. Maybe it's drinking or vaping, or it's behaving in a way that we actually don't want to do. So for peer pressure, we can start to help kids notice, when they are put in these situations where they are asked to do something they don't want to do, and give them some ways out. So these days, a lot of kids do have some sort of communication device. I know with my kids, they have a special code that they can just quickly send me. And as soon as I see that, I'm picking up the phone and I'm going to say, hey, time to come home. So giving them some ways to get out of situations, but then also some simple phrases. So say they're in a tough spot with a group of kids, they're asking them to do something they're really uncomfortable with. Humor is a great thing to do there. So they could say something like, hey, I'm not into that, and walk away. Or simple, 1 or 2 sentence phrases that they can say in those situations to help them get out of those situations.
Yes, indeed, people. So, Miss Jessica, what would be your advice for those people out there who want to gain more and more friends?
Hmm. Ooh, these days, it seems like it would be easier because we're online and we're all connected, but more kids feel lonely today than ever. So sometimes it's hard to
Yes.
make really close connections online. So what I encourage kids and teens to do is think about what they love to do. Maybe they love baseball, maybe they love art, maybe they love animals. Is there something that they can do, outside of school, that is what they love, that they might cross paths with other people that have that interest? Because in young friendships, especially for kids and teens, often that friendship blooms out of some shared interests they've got. So I would encourage kids to, in addition to whatever they're doing online, get out in their community and do some things that they really like, where they can meet in person, face to face with other people that are also doing that thing and realize it takes time. So if they say they decide to join an art class, they're not going to find a new BFF the first class, but maybe after the fifth class, they're going to start to feel really comfortable with some of the other students in that class. So putting yourself out there, doing the things you really enjoy doing so you can cross paths with other like people.
Miss Jessica, thank you so much for your advice. I hope people will follow it. So, what will be your short term and long term goals in writing?
Oh, I have a couple more books out. So after I wrote that first book, I have a book all for middle schoolers, for all genders. I've got a new book out that's about life with a cell phone for preteens, and I'm writing another one now, again for preteens and early teens. That's all about using mindfulness to navigate the stresses of their lives. In this day and age, we have more teens battling anxiety and depression than ever before. So I wanted to write a book that's fun and interesting, but also helps them deal with the daily, stress and anxiety of their lives. So that book is, I'm almost done, and then it goes through the editing process, and that'll be illustrated too, and that comes out in 2026.
Good luck to your goal, Miss Jessica, and we are hoping for more empowering books like this. So let's talk about friendship in general. What qualities make someone a great best friend?
And that's going to be different for everybody. In fact, when I was running my friendship program in schools, we had an activity that was, what are you looking for in friendship? So for everybody, that's going to be a little different, and that's okay. I remember one time my daughter was friends, and she's a quieter person. She was friends with another quiet person, and I remember that she started actively seeking out a much more talkative friend, just because just wanted to see what that would be like to have a friend who was really talkative, since she was so used to a quiet friend. So everybody's interests and needs are different in friendship. It's good to keep that in mind, because sometimes if it doesn't feel like a fit, it could be that could be the reason. Maybe you're looking for different things in friendship. So just think about you and what you like to do. What are your hobbies? What are you looking for? Someone to be out on an adventure with, someone to have deep, close conversations with, and start there.
Certainly. So, how can you tell if a friend is truly supportive or just pretending?
Hmm, that's a good question. And some people are really good at pretending, so it might be
True.
hard to know. But after we've spent quite a bit of time with a friend, we can usually feel it in our guts. We can feel it in our guts if we're really connecting at that deeper level, if we're feeling like this is a reciprocal friendship, if it's feeling like we can really share ourselves. So I do think we can really listen to what our bodies and our guts are telling us in terms of friendships, and how we're feeling afterwards. Like we started this conversation, how do we feel after we spend time with that friend? And ideally, after we spend time with our friends, we want to feel more grounded. We want to feel excited. We want to feel inspired. We want to feel connected. Of course, that's not going to happen all the time, but in most of the times, after we spend time with our friends, we want to feel pretty good and supported. So keeping that in mind too.
Yes, certainly. So, what should you do if you feel left out by your friends?
Hmm. And for kids and teens, this happens a lot. This
Yes,
can and it could be just a matter of skill, where the group doesn't realize that they're actually kind of leaving somebody out, or it could be on purpose too, and that's really painful these days for kids. So if you are feeling left out, one thing I share with kids is we teach others how we want to be treated by speaking up, and that could be really scary, right? So let's say we're in a situation where we're with our good friends and everybody's doing this one thing and we're not, and we're feeling just kind of, yeah, out of the picture. It's up to us to go up to them and say, hey guys, I'm feeling a little left out, can I whatever. So I usually start with I call them I statements. My feelings, I'm feeling left out. And then you have to then go from there with what you would like to happen in that situation. But using this in a real neutral tone, because it's really easy with our words to divide. So if I walked up to that group and said, "You guys are always leaving me out." So just that change is going to put them on the defensive. They're less likely to hear what I'm saying. But if I walk up to them, like I said, and I said, "Hey guys, I'm feeling kind of left out. Would it be okay if blank, whatever I'm say?" So I have a lot of power with how I choose to communicate, and how I choose to communicate is going to dictate whether that conversation helps to connect us or it divides us.
Certainly, people. Communication is the key for a good relationship because other people, they are not psychic. They cannot read your mind. So, Miss Jessica, what can conflicts and friendship be resolved in a healthy way?
Mm, and conflict resolution, that's a tough one, even for adults, right?
Yes,
Okay,
true.
so what I always encourage is, when we are in the heat of something, if we are feeling really wound up, it might be in our best interest to first just take a break. Acknowledge that. If say we and my friend and I are having a real, heated discussion and it turns into an argument. First, I might say, "Hey, I notice I'm really spun up about this. I'm going to take a couple minutes just to go for a walk to settle down, and then I'll be back." So I think it's important to recognize that feeling in ourselves. Don't let that emotion take us over so we end up saying things we regret. Recognizing that, but acknowledging with them that, "Hey, I need to take a break, but I'll be back." Sometimes if we just storm out of the room, it really just leaves them hanging and might make the situation work. So owning our own feelings and letting them know that, "Hey, I'm going to calm down. I'm going to take a walk and I'll be back in 10 minutes." Or if you need more time, "Hey, can we revisit this tomorrow?" So starting with that. And then when we're more settled, starting the conversation again, as you know as diplomatically as we can, realizing that we are both having different experiences, we all have different skills, we're seeing this in different perspectives. So how can we have this conversation in a way that we're hearing each other? So starting again with those I statements, like, "I feel like you might have misunderstood what I was saying in this situation," and then go on from there. So starting with I, starting when you're calm, and realizing that we're half of this communication channel. So we own our part in how we communicate and trying to come to a healthy solution.
What are some fun ways to strengthen the friendship, Miss Jessica?
Oh, I think it's really important for friends to spend time doing things they love together and on a regular basis. So sometimes we can really strengthen our friendships if we say, "Hey, let's go for a weekly walk," or, "Hey, let's start this book club together." So something that is regular that we both enjoy, can really start to grow and deepen our friendships.
Certainly. So, Miss Jessica, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my feature author of the month of March this coming. Oh, our episode will be live tomorrow. She is award-winning and best-selling author, Miss Angela Henry. So please do tune in tomorrow. We are doing our first episode at 3 p.m. PST. So please do listen to my feature author of the month also for February, Miss Ravenoak, award-winning and best-selling author. So, Miss Jessica, how can a person move on from a broken friendship in
Hmm.
a positive way?
Oh, in a positive way. Okay, so when we lose a friend, we're going to have grief. So I think we have to
Yes.
recognize that whenever we lose relationships that are special to us, we have to give ourselves time to grieve and heal. So realizing that's going to take time, that's going to be uncomfortable, but honoring those emotions in ourselves. Remember, we talked about earlier that sometimes when we name those emotions, it helps to tame them. So if we can name that, oh, our heart's really aching and we're just feeling really sad about this friendship. So that's going to take some time. And I think one thing we can do when friendships do come to an end is just try to do that as gracefully and as kindly as possible. And that might mean later, once we've gotten over our grief, circling back if we need to maybe apologize or, close things another way. But I think, the best we can, to finish our relationships with as much respect and grace as possible.
Yes, people, let it go and live at the moment. Miss Jessica Spear, thank you so much for sharing your books to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support all your books?
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for hosting me and for focusing on all these authors and books that you work with. I so appreciate it. The easiest
Thank
way to get a hold of me is on my website, Jessica Speer, SPEER.com. And that has links off to all my social channels, ways to order my books, and lots of articles on these topics that I write about.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Jessica Spear because if you support her, more and more and more empowering books like this to come. So, Miss Jessica, thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
More to come, people. See you soon. So, Miss Jessica, this episode will be published